Okay guys, I am going to show you how I created my little character who happens to be a fox, who also happens to be an astronaut, who happens to be wearing a jetpack. So the first thing I did, I went to the shape tool and I created a rectangle shape. I'm going to drag over my stuff now because the stuff that I have tends to go to the side of my screen when I'm recording, so I'm going to drag it back over here. How I have my stuff set up, you don't have to set your stuff up my way. Set it up how you want, just pay attention to the stuff that I'm using, that's all. So as you can see, I went to stroke, line stroke, and I'm changing the line stroke to 0.25. And always make sure you have it in the center so it can be rounded. I'm going to go ahead and fill my stroke now and take off my fill. Sorry, take off my stroke and fill my fill. So you can have the color. I went and I touched the white arrow so that I can have an oval or a cylinder shape. Yeah, this is more of a cylinder, so a cylinder shape. I'm going to zoom in here now so you guys can see what's going on. So what I'm going to do here, I'm actually creating the side of the face, and I'm going to give you a little hack where you can just create one side and then duplicate it or mirror it, whatever you want to call it, and that way you save yourself from drawing something twice. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and use that skill that I just taught you, which is copying this, going to my reflection tool, which is right under the T, which is the text right there. Get my reflection tool, I'm going to copy that, paste it, and turn it over to the other side, which should be a reflection. Of course, you know, mirror that right there, and there we go. We have it right there. That probably saved me a minute or two. So now I'm going to give you guys a chance to catch up. I'm just going to pull this down a bit because the head was a bit too long. I could see this being a Wolverine character if I just change the colors. You know, that beard looks about right. So I'm going to go ahead and tidy this up. For those of you who are people that like to be super tidy, don't worry about that. You can take your time and do that. For those of you who are just following along, you can do that as well. For the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to try not to be as tidy and neat as I would like to be so that we can learn together. So I selected my face and then I pressed the I and I touched the color of what I wanted and it transferred to that. What I just did was, all I did was Control C, copy and paste. So now I'm going to break apart my original drawing so I can get to the colors. I want that warm color now for the face. I'm going to make sure I select it first, press I, and there we go. I'm going to right click it and group it. That is so everything will be grouped, obviously, so that everything travels together. And there we go. So you're gonna have to make sure that you watch closely because sometimes these things can go by really fast. So right now I'm using the direct selection tool, the white arrow. Once again, get accustomed to that name, and I have been dragging on the points till you can see that shape that comes out, that curve that rounds the edges of my face, which is the same way I would have done the square in the beginning. How I turned it into a cylinder, I would have done the same thing. So you can tap around here until you get stuff to what you want it to look like. But if you are somebody that is like me that likes to be specific, then it might take you a while. But for the purpose of this tutorial, we're just gonna keep going to make sure that you guys can understand so you can do it yourself. So right now I'm creating that split in the face. So as I would have showed you in the earlier video how to use the tools of Adobe Illustrator, so you guys know that once you hold down the pen tool and drag, it will start to bend. And you know, I went to my shape tools and I used the circle shape to make a nose. Now I made another circle. I'm going to touch it with the direct selection tool, which will cut the top of the shape and make it into a half. Now I'm going to go ahead and delete the fill, place a stroke in there. Oh, by the way, I'm going to teach you guys now how to use pop-ups. I'm just kidding, guys. That is just annoying. I don't know why it's there. Alright, so I've gone ahead now and made my stroke thinner. Remember, I tell you to go to the stroke tool and you will change it to what size you want, but make sure you keep it in the middle to make sure that it's rounded. That way everything is rounded. And there we have our cute little eyes. Now we're going to make the mouth. Now the most important thing when you're creating this mouth is the curve. The happy curve. That's what I call it. That's the most important thing. Once you get that done, everything else will fall in line. So I'm going to go ahead and create my mouth. Take my time. Drag the pen tool so I can get that curve. And as you can see, it's a bit choppy and sharp on the edges. And we don't want it to be that choppy. So I'm going to go ahead and get the direct selection tool. And when I do that, it will take care of all those edges, those rough edges. I'm going to draw my tongue. Now this part can be a bit annoying, so don't worry, you're not going to get it on the first try. Maybe I will. Horrible! I did not get it on the first try, so I'm going to delete that. Don't worry. Things take practice and you don't get everything on the first try. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in my face a bit because it's a bit too long for a second there. I'm going to go ahead and put in my ears. Remember, hold and drag on the pen tool to get your shapes to bend, or your lines to bend. So I'm going to make the ears now. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead now and make sure that's where I want it to be. And I copy and pasted it just like I showed you before. We're going to reflect it now. And then we're going to drop that ear onto the other side of the head. Use the selection tool, the black one, and just turn it a bit. So now we have two ears. Look at that. He can hear. My eye fell out. My bad. Wow, that sounds really scary, doesn't it? His eye fell out. But we fixed it, don't worry. So I'm going to make my eyes a little bit smaller on my fox because I want them to be a little bit smaller and hence a little bit cuter. So as you see me here, I'm actually having an exact line, you know, that stays in sync with the other line. So what I did was I pressed Control Alt and I selected what I wanted to move, then I dragged it. That keeps stuff in a straight line so that you don't have to worry about placing it back in the exact spot. So it does the work for you when you do that. So I went ahead now and I copy and pasted the ear again, and now I'm going to take the pen tool and draw on the inside of the ear to give me those highlights that you see in my original drawing. Using the direct selection tool, the eyedropper tool, to get my color. I'm going to bring it in a little bit using the selection tool. And there we go. So now I realize that I have that. I'm going to go back and do my tongue again. Draw my tongue. And this time I should get it right. There we go. Eyedropper tool. Ta-da! Congratulations! We did it, guys. So, I'm going to go ahead, as I told you before, to round the edges. Look at how nice that smile looks now, see? Well, that laugh. Because you can see his tongue, so he has to be laughing. Bringing that face a little bit. I made a mistake, so I'm going to fix that again. Do it again and bring it in a little bit more. Too much. Deselect the mouth. Make sure you don't have everything selected, just the face. And bingo. That's what I like. Bring up that part a bit. And we're going to fix that part, of course. Because we want to make sure it's where we want it to be. And we're going to fix the nose. Make sure that's where I want it to be. Hold on to it with your selection tool. You can zoom in even more if you can't see what you're doing. And I'm going to go ahead and copy that and paste it over there, because I don't want to have to do that again. Remember I said I use a reflection tool to reflect it so that it is matching the other side. And then boop, drop it in there. There we go. There we go. So now our fox has nice ears. I'm going to send that to the back. Right click on it and send to the back. But I actually think I already have that to the back, so I don't need to do that. Yeah, I do. Make sure I fix that. Everything is lined up how I want it. Now I have to fix my nose again. So I'm going to hold on to it gently and bring it across. There we go. Probably make it a little bit bigger. Just a slight. And fix it again to where I want it to be. And there we go. We have our head. Isn't that amazing? And I make sure I just use an invisible, invisible ruler there. That's just something that I do. I mean, it's helpful, so I guess you guys could adapt it too as well. But there are other ways you can bring up the grid, but I don't use that, so I wouldn't talk about that one. And here I'm making the little hair. Now you guys can create any hairstyle you want. This is just the hairstyle that I preferred for this character. A little tuft of hair, And with that, we have our face. Pretty easy. Pretty easy stuff. Now I'm going to go ahead and create the helmet, which is easy. Just 2 circles. I'm going to get a circle, draw it over my fox head. There we go. Drop it to the back. Right click on it. Send to back. I'm going to duplicate that again. So I'm going to copy that circle. I'm going to make it smaller. And then we're going to sample that color with my eyedropper tool. Remember I said to press I on the keyboard. I'm going to send that backwards again, but this time I'm going to hold down my Ctrl key and I'm going to press my open brackets key until it goes back. It's a shortcut to send stuff backward. And there we have our head.